Okay, I'll be right back. Ta-da! Some trick. I just got my laptop. That's it. That's literally it. I wanted to, now that it's been just 2 weeks and 2 days, I wanted to go over some updates and thoughts on my car accident that happened on, was it the 3rd? Let me get calendar. Yeah, it was the first Wednesday of the month of December. So it's been 2 weeks and 2 days. And I wanted to do it at 2 weeks on Wednesday, but there wasn't a very important update. I'm doing this for the sake of my journal, for the sake of my sanity, and for the interest, the help of you guys. I don't know if this is helpful, if this can help anyone. I am in much brighter spirits than when I was when I first made the first video directly after the incident, after the accident happened. But anyway, so final update as of now, as of today, which is Friday, December 19th. We talked to insurance, and a few while back, however long ago it was, I gave my dad permission to speak in behalf of myself and to be on my account, to be linked where he can talk in my name about me and the situation and things. And so he's been reaching out to insurance. I don't know anything about insurance. I have been an adult for several years now, but I just don't know how to really navigate it, and I've never been in an accident before, so this is all very new to me, and I don't understand a lot of it, if not most of it. So as of right now, they are useless and hopeless, and they are of no help. So my car is worth $0 still. It was technically my fault because if you watch this is the second video. If you watch the first video, I explained what happened, how I had hit ice and I could not stop at the stop sign in time. Then an oncoming car came and hit me on the right side. So it was technically my fault, but it is also insurance's fault because they had me on a certain policy where I was not insured for collisions, and I would have never done that. We switched about a year plus ago, my brother and I, off of my parents' plan, or however it worked. Something happened to where both my brother just found out because he called after we found out I was not insured correctly, and he was not as well. We found that out as well. And he went all the way from Idaho all the way to Florida, and he could have been in 10 accidents along the way. The whole time he was not insured for collision. What a nightmare, what a mess. So very frustrating, and they don't want to take fault or take the blame. They're blaming us. And today I called my dad and he let me know. He called the guy and he was like, "Oh, well, Emily then, and he didn't say might or may have. It was she did. She did this online and she switched herself." And we're like, "No, we did not do that. This was not our doing. We would never have done that. That's not what our family would have done. That's not what we want from our insurance." So it's just a zoo. And they say, "Oh, after break, after Christmas, we'll get back to you guys." And even on the phone today, he was like, "Oh, Kenton," that's the name of my dad. He's like, "Oh, Kenton, I was just going to call you. Oh, fat chance you were." Like, they are crooks, as my fiance called them. And that's a very accurate name. They are crooks. So it's very annoying, and it's just dumb. So anyway, you don't have time to be traumatized. You really don't, because when you're in an accident or something major and extreme, you're in fight or flight, and you kind of shut off in a way. And you're very traumatized, but you can't fathom or grasp it just yet. You're all over the place, and you have to move on because you are an adult. And if you get in an accident when you are an adult, you have to move on. You got to go back to work. You got to go back to school. You got to go back to your day-to-day. You have to move on from that, and you need to get a hold of insurance. You need to create a plan to get away from the mess of the accident and move on. So it is very traumatizing in and of itself, and the fact that my insurance just made it worse is very unfair. Life goes on. As they say, life goes on. Thankfully, I did not hit any trees or anything or anyone else. If I was going any slower, I would have hit the other car. Instead of them hitting my rear end on the passenger side, I would have hit them on their left side where the driver would be positioned. And that would have been even scarier. And I would have felt even worse. But myself and them, they did not get hurt. I did not get hurt. We are fine. and I could have hit trees. I landed, my car spun around after it was hit for a little bit, and then I stopped in the middle of 2 trees in the grass by a church building, the one that I go to ironically. And oh, it's funny, I'm wearing the same sweater that I realized this. I'm wearing the same sweater that I wore for the previous update. That's kind of interesting. And then my outfit of choice. So I was wearing something very sheer that did not conceal the nips. I was not even wearing a bra underneath the tank top, and it said Mrs. Reader on it. It was a very much wifey, cutesy, Etsy look, and very Pinterest too. And I just felt so exposed when I was going in the ambulance because it was cold and I felt naked and it was just awkward. It's not a big deal. They've seen way worse, but I just felt embarrassed. I remember them saying, you're going to be sore for 3 to 4 days after this. And I really was not. I felt a little stiff, a little sore, but it was really not bad. I did hit my head, but that's recovered. There was no concussion. I'm just fine. No ill side effects or anything. PTSD, and don't mind not driving for a time. I don't know if I have PTSD because I have not been behind the wheel since the accident. So it's been 2 weeks, and it's been a long time of no driving. And I drive everywhere. I drive for my errands, for my appointments, for my life after work, for getting to work. And right now I'm walking and I don't mind. The wind was really bad today. We've gotten snow on and off here and there the past little bit, but it has been very doable and I've been able to do it and I've been safe. I wear my bright red coat so people can see me and there's no excuse if they hit me, but it's been fine. I just hope and pray that I can drive comfortably and confidently when I do get a new car. And my fiance wants to purchase that for me and then I'll pay him back over time. I just don't have the money for it right now. I don't make enough, and I don't have enough saved, and so he's nice enough to do that for me. That was his offer, and for him to do that, that is huge. That's very, very kind of him, and I feel like I don't deserve it. I feel very much like a victim and just like a nuisance kind of thing, so I'm trying to get out of that bad headspace because I'm important and I'm of value, and if you've been in an accident, know your worth, know your value. You mean a lot to people. You're not a burden. You're okay. We towed the trailer. I don't think I said that detail, but when I called Nate, he soon after called his boss, who's also his bishop, who's also his neighbor, and he came with his trailer to tow my vehicle, so that was one less bill to worry about. I worked that Friday, which was a very healthy distraction. So the next day was Thursday. I missed that day. I called my boss. I let her know what happened. Well, I texted her, actually. I was too much of a frazzled mess, and I think I did well considering, but I was still in a very fragile state, and I was not in any shape to be going to work that soon. What was my car worth? So it's worth 0 right now, as I said, but we're still figuring out what to do about the car, and we'll go from there. That will be update number 3. Circumstantial depression. So I've had major depression. I was diagnosed with that in high school. Then a couple years later, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So they kind of fed into the next. Circumstantial, I've never had. I've always been a bubbly, peppy person. But circumstantial depression, the first week, that's what it felt like. It wasn't major depression because I felt that before and it wasn't that same feeling. But it was caused by something. It was my circumstances that were making me feel depressed. Nothing was really wrong outside of the accident, but I was so enveloped by the accident, I couldn't see outside of it. I couldn't see anything else. But that's gotten easier. Doctor wanted to see me and evaluate my health since the accident. So I get a call, I think the next day or two after the accident happened, and they let me know, hey, we heard you got in an accident. I think the hospital contacted my doctor or something. He was so fast, it was like that. It was like in and out. He didn't even really look at me, just more talk to me. And I'm in perfect health, like I'm just fine. So literally days after my safety text to my team at work, I think it was a snowy day, and I was like, please be safe out there, you guys. And it was literally days. It was that same week where I get in the accident. I was like, oh, that's ironic. I did feel like something bad was going to happen. And growing up, I had OCD pretty bad, but it was very much internal and not so much you could see it if you were talking to me. It was very internal. And I remember I'd say things like on the way to school, like, oh, we are going, right? Okay, good. Okay, we're going. So, I remember I would say things like, if there's an even number of trees, if I see an even number of trees on my way to school, I won't die. If there's an odd number, I will die. Like stuff like that. But I did have like, not premonition, but I did feel like something bad was going to happen soon. Like something was telling me, just watch yourself. I remember that in the pitch black. So that was not a fun feeling. I asked my coworker if she could tell me if I'm weird. So when I explained the story, I only told a few coworkers. Not all my coworkers know that I got in an accident, just my closest ones. I asked a certain one. I was like, can you let me know if I'm acting off? I want to see if I'm okay. That's kind of funny. This pissed me off. Just got the door fixed and I just filled up my car with gas. So over the, I think it was summer, a few months ago, I was at my sister Ashley's just hanging out, and then there was the like window cleaning dudes who backed into my car, and they made a big dent in the side door, and I just fixed that side, and then I get in an accident several months later. So stupid. And I just filled up my car with gas. It was on empty, and I filled it up full, and that was like $35. Gets good gas, but it was still a lot of money. So that was annoying. Don't deserve to have fun, ended mourning. So that's kind of goofy. I was legit like, okay, I'm at a funeral for the next little while till I get a new car. Like, I'm supposed to be sad. I'm not supposed to have fun. And how dumb is that? Like, life goes on. I'm surprised I didn't throw up out of anxiety or stress, and I did not have a panic attack either. I've been very prone in the past to getting panicky and having panic attacks before social events, but I'm realizing in a state of emergency or during an accident, my brain like turns off and I become very numb, very blank, and I just go forward and I manage. I get by. So that's interesting. I was a cheap girlfriend, but now I'm an expensive, a hell expensive fiance. That was a joke. I joked with Nate. He says it's true. Nate felt guilt because I was leaving his place. I was leaving his place and going home. He's like, if you weren't over, you wouldn't have left. You wouldn't have gotten in the accident. You would have whatever. And I was like, Nate, you can't do the what if game. And if it wasn't that, it would have been something else probably, you know. Can you return my Christmas gifts? Do I deserve it? I asked Nate that. I was saying it seriously too. How sad is that? Nate stayed with me that night. He didn't get any sleep, but I slept solid. I took my sleep meds and I was out. I think we got home around midnight after the hospital. And it meant a lot that he was there. He was there for me. I don't love, but I appreciate that if I got in an accident, it would happen at this time of year, because it being around the holidays, there's a spirit in the air, and there's a lot of love and peace and joy and comfort, and I need that distraction, so that's good. Why am I so okay? Am I processing correctly? And I still don't know. I don't know if I'm processing right because I haven't had a meltdown or breakdown. I've been going about my day-to-day normally, or as normally as I can, and I'm okay. But really, with me being Emily, like, am I okay? I don't know. At the crosswalk, I almost got hit by a car the next day. So that Friday, me going back to work, on my way to the school, a car almost hit me. They cut me off in the middle of the intersection as I was in the middle of the crosswalk. If that makes sense, like where they were turning, they were in the middle of the crosswalk, I mean. And I was like, hello, like I'm standing right here. So stupid. He got off work early so that I could go see the doctor. Yes. So it was that following Monday when Nate went with me to the doctor appointment, and it was super fast. We were in the office waiting to be called longer than I was back there. But that was really nice of him to get off work early. Doctor said might not want to drive anytime soon, and that's very true. I'm really not in a rush. I can wait. It can be held off. We're looking at vehicles, but there's no rush. Went and took a look at the police report and found that they couldn't find any ice and said it was only wet. It's black ice and not the bad guy. So they made me feel so bad. The police officer was like, oh, I can give you a ticket for speeding, but I'm just going to give you a failure to yield for $90. And he did not care about my well-being, that I was safe, or that I'd been through something very traumatic. He was out for a ticket, and in their police report they had said, police officer so-and-so, he looked at the scene, and he found he needs to report that there was in fact no ice, and it was only wet. And that's just not what happened. So that's very frustrating. But I am grateful. Every day is easier than the last, and that is true. Time does heal, that's what they say, and that is true. It's been a headache and a nightmare, but Every day it's getting easier and easier. They did make the situation all the worse. Police officer diagnosis about the road conditions, and they should give me a pass for road conditions because that's not my doing. And then insurance issue, which has been a joke, just with them not saying my car, or saying my car isn't worth anything and not helping me with that. So really, I think the only bruise was my bruise on my left knee. I think that was the only physical bruise you could see. My dad said I was the safest driver out of all us 5 kids growing up, which is interesting. My sister got in a bad accident. I got in this accident. And then I have my other sister, a school bus. And then my mom has hit deer, my brother has hit deer. My other brother hasn't ever hit anything or been in an accident before. And I have never been in one before this accident. So it's not that I really need a car. I can walk to places, and I don't really have appointments coming up, and it can be my ride. So right now we're just investigating and navigating the insurance process and how that's a mess. Let me just make sure that I talked about everything. Those are just little snippets of phrases and things that I thought of, that I thought to say, but I don't know. I just am amazed that this happened to me. You know what I mean? You don't know. You can't imagine anything happening to you until it happens. And you always think, oh, happened to other people, okay. And then it's your turn. And it's like, oh, I don't know. I feel better. A little bit bad. I played the what if game too, and I shouldn't. And I even said to myself, I don't want to be counterproductive and saying, oh, don't use what ifs, and now I'm going to say what if. But just what if I left his place a little after or a little sooner? I would have gone straight through the intersection. Even hitting ice, I would have just gone straight, never been hit. You know, you play the what if game, but you can't do that in life. You need to just move on and let go. Just let it be. Yeah, so I'm going to go for the night. But that was my update for today. Hopefully the next update is a new car and or insurance good news. Alright, toodaloo.